Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced, and this is going to be a tutorial on creating JWT authentication in Express. It's not the only way you can do it, but it's a way to do it. I'm going to do it kind of from scratch, not using like Passport or any of these other libraries to kind of handle a lot of that for you. And again, my name is Alex from alexmercedcoder.com. Now, so this first video we're going to do is we're going to set up Express. That'll be sort of goal number one. Okay, so let's just create a new folder. We'll call this Auth app. Okay, and then I'm going to open my terminal up in this folder, and I'm going to touch a server.js. I am on a Linux system. So if you're on a Windows system, your command's a little bit different. If you're on Mac, the command should be the same. Okay, so I create a server.js file. So if I look in there, see there's a server.js file. And I might as well also touch a .env file and a .getignore file. And I'm going to make some folders, make their models, controllers. Okay, and then I like to create a DB folder. Okay, so those folders are created. Okay, now we need to create our package.json. So npm init-y. This will create our package.json. There it is. Okay, nice. So far, so nice. And then next, what we're going to be doing is installing our dependencies. So npm install. We want to install Express because that's going to be our framework for creating a web server. We're going to want to install .env for environmental variables. We're going to want to install Mongoose to connect to our Mongo database. We are going to want a JSON web token to do our authentication later on. And we might as well just also have Morgan and Cores. Okay, Morgan is our logger, and Cores will handle sort of making sure that other places other than our API can make requests to our API. Okay, prevent all those fun Cores errors. Nice. Sorry about that. I just realized this has been paused for a while, so I think you guys just missed a bunch of stuff. So let me walk you guys through what I have done. So the recap, because I'm not quite sure where I paused. Okay. So we brought in .env. We brought in Express. Okay. We created an app object. And that allowed us to create a listener to listen on from our Express app. So our Express app is listening. I then imported Cores and Morgan because Cores is middleware that's going to let us allow external websites to make API calls to our API. Morgan's going to log, which we can see in the terminal to make life easier. Just to show you how Morgan works, let me start the server. And let's see here. If I go over here, I refresh. Okay, so again, I never made any routes yet, so that's still not working, but we can see that the route got logged. So that's all Morgan does, is logging. Cores is just making sure that we can make API calls so that we don't run into Cores errors. And this is just going to parse any data coming into our server that's encoded as JSON. Cool. So then what I did is I created a database folder with a file called db.js. Here we imported our .env variables again. I imported Mongoose. I created this object, this config object, and what that does is that it prevents certain deprecation warnings from happening. It'll work either way if you don't make it, but then you have all the warnings in your terminal. And why have them if you don't have to? Okay, I destructured my MongoDB URI from process.env. So again, here, right now I'm using the local Mongo database. So this is the URL for a local Mongo database running on my computer. If you had a MongoDB from mongodb.com, then they'd give you your URL and you'd put it here. Okay, because you want to hide it. You don't want to accidentally push this to GitHub where people can use your database because they can see your URL. So we always want to make sure that .env doesn't get pushed up to GitHub. And the way we do that is by putting in our .gitignore. So our .gitignore should always have node modules, because there's really no good reason to push this node modules folder up to GitHub, and the .env file, because we should never share those variables. Those are our sensitive variables. Okay, and that's what the gitignore does. It makes Git ignore those files. Okay, cool. So then we connected to Mongo using Mongoose. So it said mongoose.connect. I passed in the URI, and I passed in the config object. Then we created all these events using mongoose.connection, which is an event emitter. I created an event for when the connection opens that says you are connected to Mongo. I made an event for when the connection closes that says Mongo connection closed. And I made an event for error. So these are, again, pre-made events built into Mongoose. This mongoose.connection object is a event emitter that emits certain events at certain points, and we can pass functions as to what to do when those events happen using this on function that we can chain off the emitter. Okay, so then we exported Mongoose, because now we're not exporting a fresh copy of Mongoose, we're exporting a copy of Mongoose that's already connected. So that gets imported back in my server.js, which now allows the connection to be live when I run server.js. So this is why when I do node server.js, I'm connected to Mongo. So even though my connection code is not in this particular file, whenever you include a file in Node, it runs that file first. So technically this file gets run before server.js does. So anything that's going to happen in server.js will already have, the connection will already be open at that point. Okay. So that's where I'm at. Okay. So hopefully feel free to rewind that, pause, catch up code-wise. But the only two files I've worked in so far are server.js and database.js. We now have our server set up. So in the second video, we'll actually create the user model, set up authentication, and all those pieces. So I'll see you guys in video number 2. Sorry for that kind of missing chunk there because I paused, but we went over it. So hopefully you can go back, follow my steps. Again, there's nothing else in any of the folders. Let me actually show package.json so you can see my dependencies in case you're missing any of them. So these are the dependencies you should have. With that, I'll see you guys in the next video. I haven't set up any scripts, so this is just the default stuff. See you guys later. Make sure to like the video, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in a bit.